All right, everyone, we are back on MorningLine on this Wednesday. Nick Barris along with Clint Kelly, malpractice attorney here in town, regular guest on the show, taking your phone calls if you want to jump in. It was a crazy night last night with some of, the severe weather, which you're right, didn't get as bad as it is, but some of you may still be shaking out the cobwebs. But we have lines open if you want to jump in, 737-7587. And let's go to Joe. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, I just want to say that I really appreciate you and Mr. Kelly giving us public some of the insight into the malpractice laws and some of the things that goes on. And one of the last things I'll say right quick is the state legislature here, as Mr. Kelly well knows, have put limits on what you can collect a lot of times, and this year waiting period in a lot of states, as Mr. Kelly well knows, is some states is 2-3 years. So big business controls our legislators, and it's very easy to see that the average public person out there is at a disadvantage. And one other thing right quick I'll say, Mr. Kelly appears to me to be a person that will tell you like it is, good or bad. And he doesn't beat around the bush with his answers.
Joe, you're exactly right. In fact, we've said how when people come in, you're honest with them. If they don't have a case, you don't beat around the bush. You tell them why and say, I'm sorry.
The trouble I have a lot of times, Dick, is when I get clients that call me up who have been to another lawyer before, and the lawyer will give them some lame excuse about why they can't take the case.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll say, well, I've got a conflict, like as if they see this doctor, or they tell them that I haven't seen enough information here to make me believe there's a case or something like that, rather than just flat out telling the client, look, I can't win this case for you. It's either too close, the damages aren't great enough, there's something wrong with it, and tell them the client straight up.
Yeah.
And say, look, I invite you to get a second opinion, because I don't pretend to be, Mr. Know-it-all, but you have to be blunt with the client so the client understands what he's dealing with, rather than get, it's like, the old situation where there's a girlfriend you're trying to break up with, and you try to do it nice, and you string her along, and she still thinks she's got a chance, rather than just flat out saying, look, it's over, I'm sorry, it was good, and then letting her go find somebody else. And clients are kind of in the same boat, because they don't know who to trust or who to believe, and that's why I believe in being very blunt. I want to go back to Joe's point that he raises, because I know we talk about this.
About the legislature?
We can't talk about it enough, Nick, in my opinion.
Okay.
We have caps in Tennessee as part of tort reform that was passed years ago, back in 2011, when the legislature changed politically. And the purpose of that litigation ostensibly was to prevent businesses, in particular hospitals and doctors, from leaving Tennessee. That was the concern, that if we continue having verdicts in Tennessee like we've had, that doctors and hospitals would leave. Well, first of all, there were no really big verdicts that were happening regularly to cause doctors and hospitals to leave. These caps were put into place. Well, what has happened here? Lawsuits have gone down probably 50 or 60%. I'm talking about medical malpractice cases. We've got doctors and hospitals flooding into this state like it's nobody's business. We still get big verdicts from time to time, and nothing's changed, except people like Joe and the rest of us have more difficulty getting fully compensated, and have more difficulty even getting into court, because now they've got all these procedural requirements, these bureaucratic requirements, where you can't even get to the door. Used to be you could walk up to the courthouse door, knock on it, get a lawyer, and go in. Now you got to go through all this red tape, and you may never see your day in court because of it. And it's just been awful, and I hope
what lobby was behind it?
Oh, the hospital and doctor lobby.
Hospital and doctor lobby, insurance lobby?
Insurance, and the people who insure.
Okay, and the big money. And so, because ultimately I was going to ask you, these lawmakers, they represent their constituents. And it's interesting, you were telling me that a lot of juries are very conservative, and it's odd to me. I've never been on a jury, and I've never been, obviously, on one with a malpractice case, but if I was sitting there, I would think that I would be putting myself in the shoes of the person who was injured and be more sympathetic. But you say that's not the case, because it seems like these laws hurt the constituents of these lawmakers.
It is anti-conservative. It is big government legislation. Our system was set up to trust juries. It is to trust the common man to make decisions, or common woman to make decisions, life-changing, life-altering decisions on a daily basis. That's why we have the 7th Amendment to the Constitution. Jury trials decide these things, and I've told you this before.
Right.
If a jury can put someone to death,
Bingo.
then a jury can decide what are proper damages.
Yes.
So when the government takes away the jury's ability to make these decisions and basically says, look, we know best what proper damages are, we know best how to run the court system rather than juries, then we've given up our rights. And it's a totally anti-conservative principle, and it makes me sick to my stomach when we talk
You're
about
exactly right. Goodness gracious. I mean, you can have a jury execute a person.
Yeah.
Execute them, and they allow that. And there's nothing that's a more significant
But we
decision than
can't
that.
we can't trust
but
them
the
to
jury's
decide
not
what
trusted
damages
to
are.
decide
That's
on
right.
damages.
That's right.
If you don't understand that it has nothing to do with the jury's decision-making process, but it's big business, you're living in a dream world. Yeah. That's what it is, plain and simple. Let's go to Tina. Hi, Tina.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. What can we do for you?
Well, I heard the attorney mention that defamation of character was an action, and I had to have a situation where, after complaining about a doctor who I believed was incompetent for several months to patient relations, the director of that division, without calling me, contacting me, asking my side or anything, sent a letter first warning me, threatening me that they would not allow me to return to that clinic if my behavior didn't change. And so after that, because I had asked for a change of doctor. So after that, I wrote a long letter to one of the real, administrators, hospital administrators, about this whole situation, and he passed it on to one of his subordinates, and that person just sent me a letter saying, well, we reviewed your file and we think the doctor is okay, she didn't do anything. So then I continued to complain to patient relations, and the second time I complained, the director of that clinic, that division, sent me a letter saying, well, you can no longer be treated in this particular clinic, not only at this location, but at any of the other locations. So now I'm without an internal medicine doctor, plus framing letters, because I had mentioned the defamation of character in my letter to the administrator, that this director of internal medicine had no right to do that because she had never talked to me, so there was no due process. But not only did she do that, but now, after me complaining the second time, she sent another letter saying, well, you can't even come to any of our internal medicine locations, even though I had made an appointment with another doctor. So that appointment has been canceled.
Okay, and it's probably affecting your health, huh?
Exactly. So what can I do? Well, she gave me 30 days. She said, well, if you have an emergency within 30 days or a sickness, you can come back, but you have to find another doctor. But I had already made an appointment at a new location with another doctor, but that's now been canceled because of this director
intervening like that. All right, I'm not sure what can be done there. What do you think, Clint? That's a little different question.
This is going to cause great anxiety for Tina, and I can understand why. Let me tell you the difference between clinics and hospitals, unfortunately, for Tina and doctors. She's been discharged. That's the bottom line. Under Tennessee law, a doctor and a clinic can refuse to treat a patient if, for a variety of reasons, but if in this case there's a difficulty between the doctor and the patient such that it threatens the physician-patient relationship. That is different from a hospital. A hospital is required by federal law. It's called the EMTALA Act. Every hospital that receives Medicare funds, which these days is almost everyone, in fact probably is everyone, they must treat a patient who comes through the doors, and they must stabilize that patient before transferring the patient or discharging the patient. So her question was, what can I do? And Tina, unfortunately, there's really not much you can do. The law presumes that you can go to another doctor, presumably affiliated with another group, to get treatment. If you're a Medicare recipient, that does change the equation somewhat, because Medicare doctors are required to treat under certain circumstances. They still have the right to discharge a patient, but if you call Health and Human Services, they can lean on a doctor or a clinic to get treatment. But I know you don't want to hear this, Tina, but the bottom line is you're going to need to find somebody else outside of that group in order to establish a new relationship, because it sounds like the bridge has been burned, whether you're at fault or not. And I think, frankly, you might want to start with someone else.
Sure.
And get a clean slate.
Yeah, good advice. And
If you
there's
can.
an example right there, what Joe was talking about.
Yeah.
You give it to him straight. All right, listen, we need to take a break on that note. If you're on hold, stay there. The number's 737-7587. I'm wondering about maybe something that happened to you at a hospital or a doctor's office. Do you have a case? We'll be back. Clint Kelly will answer it right after this. Stay with us.